And more important, I think, than well, not more important, equally important than someone who looks like you is someone who doesn't look like you.
Oh, really?
And has a different background than you. Yes, absolutely. Because they're going to give you a different perspective, and they're going to help you learn the ways of the organization that perhaps another African-American person would not know.
But that means you're going to have to open your mind.
Oh,
You're going to have to think positive.
Oh, yeah.
You got to come out of that little damn shell you're in,
Yeah.
you know, in the hood, as they say.
Yeah. You have to make friends.
That's hard for some people.
It could be. So you start small steps. Someone that you know already, get to know them. Just start a natural conversation with someone. I know it's hard for me when I go to events and networking and people I don't know. It's easy for me to talk one-on-one with somebody, but when I'm in a room full of people, I just clam up. But I make myself go up and talk to people or have a conversation because I know that relationship is important. And you never know when that relationship's going to come around and support you some other time, or when you can support that person.
I'm going to say something kind of out there. You know who picked me up more than anybody was women.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's daring.
Huh?
That's daring.
Yeah. Old women, young women. I mean, women picked me up because they'd asked me. I was standing. Where was I? I was in Wisconsin, and it was raining hard. And this old woman picked me up. She was so damn old that I looked at her. I said, "How in the heck?" And she was driving a 1949 Nash. I don't even see how the car was running. And she took me home. And she said to me, she says, I'm 78 years old. I said, okay. She said, I can't lift, I can't do anything. My place is going to hell. And so she kept me there for 2 weeks. Whatever she couldn't lift, I cut wood, I fixed the windows, I did all this stuff, you know. And I even got her tractor running.
Okay.
She gave me $10. That was the biggest $10 anybody ever gave me. You know, and I'm looking at the fact that our compassion in our society is dying too. What do you think about that?
In some areas, I would say yes. You have to, as Gandhi once said, you have to be the change you want to see. So if you want to see a better society, a better community, you have to be a part of that solution. So if compassion's dying, if you see compassion dying, then instead of waiting for someone to be compassionate, you have the opportunity to be compassionate to that person before you expect something from them. And I would say don't expect anything from them. Just compassion for compassion's sake. Smile for just to smile. I remember I was on BART one time, and it was night, and I was headed back to Pittsburgh, and there was a young man on the train, and I just walked by him and gave him a smile. And then sat down wherever I sat down, and he said, "Why did you smile at me?" And I said,
Really?
Yeah, young African-American boy, maybe 16, 17. I said, because you were there and I walked by you and I wanted to smile at you. He said, do you know every time anytime I'm on the train, people don't normally smile at me. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Because it was natural for me just to smile at him.
But the train is very segregated, you know that?
Yeah, I can see that.
The train is extremely segregated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But there was no one on the train. I could have sat
Really?
anywhere. Yeah. It was just he and I in that compartment. I could have sat anywhere. I just happened to walk by him and smiled and took
Well,
a
you
seat.
got a beautiful smile. I'll tell you that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a very radiant person.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, very, very radiant. You know, you look at that. I believe my dad was Native American and he was a mix. And one of the things he taught us about was spirituality, which people don't talk about spirituality anymore.
Right.
You know, how you carry yourself, you know, how you move through life, the body language you have, the smile, the eyes, you know. And, you know, to me, it looks like we've lost a lot of that.
Yeah. That's where that community comes in. You surround yourself with people who have those same characteristics. You move away from the people. I heard a young man a sermon on Sunday, and when he was 16, 17, he was running with the wrong people and homeless and, you know, dealing and doing drugs, and decided to turn his life around. And he said when he decided to turn his life around, when he decided to accept Christ, I know I can't talk about religion, but when he did that, he had to find new friends, and he had to find a new environment. He couldn't run with the same people because they would influence him to do one thing where he was going in a different direction. And so if you're trying to put your life on a different path, you got to find the people that are on that same path. And then you're going to find more compassion. You'll find people who are doing the things you're doing.
Like type, they used to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like type.
Mm-hmm.
It's synonymous with what it is. Like type.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You know, and you know, we're here socially. We're evolving into something else in this life. We're becoming, and I don't want to sound negative, standoffish.
Yeah.
A lot of people are. A lot of people look at their surroundings and they regress back. You know, when all it takes is just a little bit of effort to move forward. 1 foot,
Yeah.
1 step,
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, you're running like hell. Am I right?
Yes, that's true.
You know, and one of the things that I run my mouth wherever I go. I have a good time wherever I go. And that's because I'm a people acclimated person. You know, one of the things I was at one of the 49 private luncheons this past year, you know, last year, and I was just amazed at the people I'd meet there, and we would talk and have the same ideas. You know, these are multi-millionaire people, you know. So that says bring your confidence level up. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely. You have to. I mean, that fake it till you make it. Even if your confidence level isn't up, you have to walk in the room like you own it, and that's called executive presence or professional presence. It's that presence about you that you bring into a room. And I think that is very important because people read you in the first couple of seconds of seeing you, meeting you. You know, those first impressions are extremely important.
I have a bad habit of looking people in the eyes.
That's a bad habit.
You know, when I meet somebody, I'm looking right in the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And most people do this, they drop their head, you know. And I met this one guy, his name was Merle. I'm not going to tell you no last name because he's very wealthy. And he had a $2,500 Greek jacket on. And I looked at him and I looked at the jacket and I said, well, just what the heck are you doing here today? He says, I mean, just who the heck are you? I said, I'm Charlie Williams. And he told me his name, Merle, and we got to talking about the jacket. And he says, you know what you're looking at? I said, oh, yeah. You know, and that went into conversation. We ended up talking about Ferraris and cars and stuff. And we ended up talking about investments.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and it does not take any effort really to sit and have a decent conversation with an individual. Even if you feel uncomfortable.
Sure.
Because they're just as inquisitive as you are, am I right?
Absolutely, yes.
You know,
You might not be able to give them the same thing they're giving you, but you're giving them something that perhaps they don't have. You might not know what that is, but there's a reason why they're interested in talking with you.
You know, he was just amazed that I knew anything about Ferraris, and, you know, and Lamborghinis. And you were talking about reading a little bit. Just read.
Yeah.
Get out there and read. You know, one of the things that I did when I spent 20 years in the Navy, and the first time they told me to get up and speak in front of an officer corps, and I'm sitting there going, oh my God, what the hell am I going to say here? But just keep in mind, there are people just like you are, am I right?
Oh, yes. Everybody. Everybody. They put on their pants one leg at a time. There's no reason to be intimidated by anyone. I mean, I know it happens. It happens to me, which is why I say...
How is that?
Well, because, for example, I was doing a leadership retreat one year, and the leaders I was working with were mostly white, mostly male, mostly executives,
That's a hard
mostly
one.
with money.
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
That's a damn hard one.
And a lot of them were mostly world traveled or had been to other countries that I had not been to. So to have a conversation with them and to hear of these travels. Well, someone said, well, have you ever been to China? And I had, I said it, tried to say it confidently, but I was like, no, I haven't yet. And so then they proceeded with whatever story, but that was intimidating for me.
Why is that?
Because I didn't feel like I could contribute to the conversation at that moment. And I was still, in my mind, that little black girl. I don't see myself as the Ph.D. woman, professional woman that is successful. I see myself as that little black girl that, early in my career had to fight and do all the things I had to do to get to where I am now. And it was just rough. And so I have to shed.
How did you conquer that?
Mentors, education, friends and family. We were talking about spirituality, prayer. And then in spite of how I felt, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing something in
Say
spite
that again.
of. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's acting in spite of fear. So when you're being courageous.
It's so poetic. Yeah, that's cool.
So when you're being courageous, it doesn't mean you're not fearful. It means you're just doing it anyway. So I just did things anyway.
You want to know, I was in Vietnam. I spent almost 40 months in Vietnam. I was on search and rescue, which was really nasty. And I was reading this book written about, the author was Chinese, and it was a book on psychology. I used to, I had so much time. I'd read psychology, all the stuff, junk that people don't normally read because they pass the time. And one day I was sitting out there, and I was pretty well in the wind. I'd been indulging the night before, and I woke up, and a guy says he was afraid to go out that morning. And then everybody I talked to had some element of fear. So I stood up on the small boat we was on, and I waved my finger around. I said, wind them up, let's go die if that's what it takes. Everywhere I went, people were doing that. And my boss called me and he says, okay, I'm in the dark. What the hell have you done? He said, I said, you delete the element of fear, you enhance performance. And I just had read that in the book, and got out there and did. But I've lived that my whole life. I don't live with fear. And your confidence level will grow if you don't have that element of fear.
Sure.
And in the inner cities of this country, fear is the number one thing that's prevalent in our lives.
And, the one person, you demonstrated leadership in that moment. It just sometimes takes that one person to do what no one else can do. I've heard so many different stories of people who didn't see people who looked like them in corporate jobs, or even in professional jobs, like entertainment jobs or something that they wanted to do. If they didn't see anybody looking like them, they didn't see the possibility. Well, then the people that broke through that barrier became the possibility. They decided, in spite of, I'm still going to go for that because that's what I want. And those are the leaders that we have in our community, and I think there are more out there. I absolutely believe there are more out there.
You know what? There are some of the most intelligent people in the world in the inner cities.
Oh, yeah.
They just never develop, am I right?
Absolutely. I know a few
That's
of
a
them.
scary thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
I have a family member that just comes to mind. He's one of the smartest people I know.
Confidence level. That zing. There was something I wrote. I was in Vietnam the last time, and we was putting around, and I saw something written on the side of a building, and it said, there are those of us who live the challenge life, and then there are those of us who live and let life challenge us.
That's good.
It said, be a challenger. And
I like
your days may not be as long, but they'll be oh so sweet.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
I love that. I love it. I think of the book, The Road Less Traveled, or the poem, The Road Less Traveled, and thinking of, do you want to be a trailblazer? In a lot of my classes, in my Ph.D. program, I was the only African American woman. I was certainly the only mom. I was the only married woman. Everybody else was younger than me. I was the only 30-year-old. And so you have to do it and be that trailblazer, because then other people since then, I've known quite a few women say, you've inspired me to go and get my degree. And that makes me feel so good.
Being an inspiration, what does that do to you?
It makes me feel like I'm living my purpose. I mean, all I want to do is encourage and support people in living in their purpose and living their dreams.
That is something big to say, living your purpose.
Yeah.
I don't hear that in our society too much anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
You're listening to Thoughts of a Common Man with Charles Achieve Williams on Radio Valencia, the sounds of the mission.
And we're back again with our special guest here. We're talking about life. You know, and she's a doctor, Ph.D. Super pretty woman, I have to say that, you know. Gorgeous individual, but highly intelligent, highly articulate, and got her feet, both feet on the ground, as I should say, which most people, you know, they've got the educated level. People just kind of decelerate from society and get into their own worlds. But this lady's got her both feet on the ground and she's out there. Do you have a professional service?
Yes, so I provide executive coaching to leaders, mostly in corporate context, so anywhere from senior managers to first-time VPs. I'm starting, however, because my passion is to work with emerging leaders, those that want to get there but are not yet there. So supporting them and coaching them. So I'm a coach. So what I do is not so much provide the answers, but pull the answers out of people by asking questions of them about solving problems, so that they learn to think about solving problems in a different way, or they learn a different perspective that maybe they didn't have without using a coach.
What is the most prevalent problem you see in people who are trying to emerge?
Oh, wow. I have found 6 different competencies that leaders are successful in and where those trying to emerge have not mastered yet. Communication, collaboration or team playing, executive presence, which is that professional presence I talked about, emotional intelligence, which is really important, having a sensitivity to not only your own emotions in the moment, but socially with the other people that you're interacting with, as well as strategic thinking.
What?
Strategic thinking bigger than
That's
right.
That's a big word.
So it's having, just having a strategy, having a vision, having an idea of what's going to happen down the road instead of I have head down, I'm doing my job today. Thinking about, well, how is this going to impact you, the company, the people around you, 5 months, 10 months, a year, 5 years from now. So it's having that more visionary thinking, 30,000-foot view. And then being influential, building those relationships with people, even if you don't have the title.
That time of growth is very hard for some people, am I right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because you can't master all those at once, number one.
Sure.
And you have to decide. I mean, I feel I'm a continuous learner. And I
You're
feel
what?
a continuous learner. So just because I got my Ph.D. almost 10 years
Ooh,
ago.
lady, you know how real you are? Oh my God.
Yeah, I
You're
mean,
the third person I ran into in the year with a PhD that says, I'm still learning.
oh yeah.
Most of them say, I know.
Oh no.
I figured it out.
Oh no. The more you learn you don't know.
Oh, God, bless America. Say that again.
The more you learn what you don't know. Or that you don't know. So
Yeah.
I have a degree.
That's all right.
I have a degree in one subject. Just one.
And that is?
Organizational psychology. It's like a MBA for people.
Okay, I'm going to throw a ringer at you, okay?
Okay.
What is the most prevalent thing that people look at when they go into leadership, when they have these conceptions about people, which a lot of people in the professional community have preconceived conceptions? How do you knock that down?
That relationship. Those people have to get to know you. You have to first present yourself, so it's that presence, coming in the door, dressing professionally, speaking well, knowing your stuff, of course, knowing, being competent in what you do. And then once you're in the door and you're doing the job, that's when you have to start building those relationships, identifying who are the people, number one, that are key to my success in this job, and then how do I build a relationship with them? And it's not, some people might call it politicking or being political or manipulating.
I don't think it's being political.
No, not at all. But it is being strategic and thinking, these are, not that I can't develop relationships with anyone else, but these specific people I need to know. And more importantly, they need to know me.
Psychological reciprocity.
Yes.
You want to tell people what that is, because most people don't know.
Psychological, so when, tell me, because I've heard the term, I have not learned about the term, but I've heard the term.
The term is show me the intelligence or the respect that I show you. Very simple.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But a lot of people have problems with that.
Yeah, they do.
They kind of lock themselves in the closet and close the door when it comes to respect and dignity and accepting people as they are.
As they are, that's key.
And not trying to change people.
That's key. Well, we're dealing also with implicit bias. We all have bias. Some that is just blatant, and people are just showing discrimination, and they're showing that they don't like someone for whatever reason. But some bias we don't even realize that we have. It's unconscious. Because, not necessarily because that person's black, it might be because that person is short. It could be that because that person is skinny, or because that person has blonde hair. We develop over time, from childhood to adulthood, these ideas of what people are, and then we carry that wherever we go, and definitely into the workplace.
I ran into a Master Chief now, Alfred J. Swanson Jr. Master Chief Swanson's probably dead and gone by now, because they used to call him Sweet Walking Swanee, because he was very smooth, and he would point his finger at everybody. It was the hi sign, hi, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Something that communicated. But when you talk to him, he was one of the most intelligent people I've ever met. And one of the things you're saying is get out and be a people of people. Am I right?
Yes, and
a person of people.
Yeah, and I understand it's hard sometimes. Not everybody's an extrovert. Not everybody wants to go out and meet a whole bunch of people. But I say start with one person, whoever that person is. You don't have to.
The foot forward.
Pardon?
The foot forward.
Take one foot, put it up, put it down, take a step forward.
Okay.
Take it in tiny bits. And the people that I'm most comfortable with are either the people that are already sort of kind of know, or someone who's introduced me to someone else. And I've had that a lot. Oh, you should meet such and such and so forth. And sometimes the relationships I build meeting their friend or colleague is stronger than the person that I already knew.
Hey, let's throw something at the public, okay?
Okay.
Professional phone number, contact.
Sure.
Yeah.
So my web address is my name. So www.Julianna Hynes, Julianna spelled Julianna, Hynes spelled HYNES.com. That's my website. On it, you'll see a contact us page where you can write in, send me an email. And if you want to contact me directly through email, it's the same, Julianna@JuliannaHynes.com.
Tell me something.
Yes.
What made you becoming a person of the diddle with the mind?
It
Where did that come from?
always an interest of mine since high school. Had a psychology professor who was amazing, and he just influenced me to pick up psychology. And so I'm always interested in how people think, how people work. I'm always watching the biographies of famous people on TV, because I just want to see how they came to be where they are.
What makes people tick?
What makes people tick? Yeah.
That's a big generation life. It's huge.
And sometimes you yourself don't know what makes you tick. That's what there are people out there, psychologists, that help you look at the past and reconcile your present to the past. I help you reconcile or build your present to the future and build that bridge. So I help people focus on more so the future than looking at the past.
You know, you just opened a can of worms. You know that, don't you? A big can of worms.
In what way?
And the fact that people don't look very far into the future anymore.
Right. Yeah.
You know, this is why we have such a failure rate in the job market and people not picking themselves up to fight again. I was talking to a friend of mine in Biloxi, Mississippi a couple of months ago. And he was talking about the unemployment rate down there is horrible. And people don't try anymore.
Yeah. I think some of that is out of necessity. We're working so hard, heads down. I gotta, do this today. Then I gotta go home and take care of kids. And I gotta do this. That you don't have time to think. You don't have time to dream. You don't have time to put a vision together. So you have to be intentional and purposeful about carving out some time to really think about what's next. What do I want to do? Where do I want to be 6 months from now, a year from now? 5 years is too far out for you. Give yourself a timeline that you can envision.
People don't think like that on the mass anymore. I look at Facebook a lot. I'm on Facebook a whole lot. And it's a lot of negativity there.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I got off Facebook.
Yeah,
I've gotten off Facebook because of it, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of negativity. And if you read what I post all the time, it's about positive thinking and forward thinking and putting your foot forward.
Yeah.
And same thing we're talking about.
Yeah.
And the responses I get is just horrendous.
Really?
Some of the things people say.
Wow.
I've given up, I don't try anymore. But then again, you get that percentage that says, well, I'm trying to do it, What I like to see is people fight. That's the whole the thing in this whole program.
Yeah.
And this whole program is called Thoughts of a Common Man. And I wrote a book. And I started selling the book 10 years ago, and it's about, in 10 years, 11 years, I've sold about 25,000 copies.
Wow.
It's all over the world.
What's the name of the book?
Pardon me?
What's the name of the book?
Thoughts of a Common Man.
Okay.
That's all you can say about it.
That's all I can say about it.
Okay.
I think I have another one. But it's psychologically, we're common people in a world that you have to network all the time,
All
day
the
and
time.
night,
Yeah.
and keep your spirit up. Am I right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Isn't that the cliche that gets us going?
Yeah. Because what's the alternative? You give up and then what?
See, people don't look at the alternative. That is a very good point.
I can't imagine. Not just my Ph.D., that's just my most recent program, but throughout my life, I've been through things. I was married and divorced within a year at a young age and pregnant from that marriage. And by the time my son was born, that marriage had broken up. In my Ph.D. program, my mother passed away. I was pregnant with my daughter, sick the whole time. I wanted to give up. I could have given up. And when my mom passed away, I went through a depression. I had to fight, and I had to decide, and that's what really helped me to get through it, was that vision. I wanted that Ph.D. So even if I had to take time off, I was going to get it, one way or another. And sometimes that is hard. It's hard, I know. But whether you do it I do it through spirituality, I do it through prayer, I do it through hearing positive messages. So I listen to a lot of podcasts and sermons. I don't just go Sunday morning to church. I listen all week to positive things, because that's like filling your tank up once and driving the whole week on one tank of gas.
I could never do that.
I couldn't either. Some people can.
Hell no, I got to get up and fill up every day sometimes.
Yeah, and that's what you have to do with your spirit. You got to fill it up every day, because Facebook, TV, any type of, often types of programs, you turn it on, it's negativity. The
Same old garbage.
Yeah, I mean the reality shows and the movies and the shows that we watch, I'm very mindful of that. I used to be a fan of Snapped. I loved that TV show because it was interesting. It was
What's the name of it?
Snapped.
What the heck is that?
When the woman snaps and kills her husband, her boyfriend, something.
Oh boy. Holy cow. For real.
And
She did him in?
She did him in, and the whole 1 hour is about the relationship and then how it got to that point. And to me, that was always
Snapped.
interesting. Snapped. I don't watch that anymore because, I mean, it's blood and maim and kill and, you know.
You know, God bless America. I didn't even know anything like that existed. It just blew
There's
me
a lot
away.
of stuff like that.
It can paint a very negative picture about society.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Because I would look at those and I was like, you can't trust anybody. You need to just,
Yeah.
stick to yourself. Look at all these crazy
Oh.
people.
And then you leave, then you stop watching it and you come away, you might not know it, but then your spirit is vexed and you come away angry. So I'm
Wow.
very mindful of what I watch now.
God, you guys just blew my stuff away. You snapped. Killing, maiming.
Yes.
Guys, you better watch out there. There may be some snappers out there. I learned patience. The Vietnamese taught me patience. While we were sitting out there sometimes, just sitting for hours and hours and hours, and this one advisor used to say, Mr. Williams. They couldn't say Williams. Say, Mr. Williams. I said, yeah. He says, just wait. Be patient. And I lived in a place called Hayama in Japan, which is the mountain. And every morning I would get up and run. Well, one morning, inadvertently, I was out there with my young ass. Oops. I was out there just burning it up.
Okay.
You know, muscular, had this little, I used to wear these little shorts, no top, just no socks and tennis. I was out there just doing it. And I got tired. So I sat down on a bench. It was a, nice ornamental type thing they used to put out. And here come a 90-year-old man. And he went on by me. And I looked and I said, well, damn, he's going to make the whole course without stopping. So the next day I introduced myself to him. He looked at me, he says, Mr. Williams, I know who you are. I says, okay. He said, remember the fable of America, tortoise and hare. So I slowed down.
Yeah, slow and steady wins the race.
And my Vietnamese advisor used to say, patience, wait on them and they will come to you.
Yeah.
And I learned that early in life, which is something that people here don't have is patience. And they don't have that thing they need to survive, some people, a lot of people. With patience comes a lot of stuff, am I right?
Oh, absolutely. It's not the easiest thing to adopt, but there's a lot of things that come with patience. And in this microwave society, it's hard for us to wait for anything.
Well, I've learned that, and let me tell you, I'm not going to put all my business in the street, but I got divorced 2-3 years ago. 3 years ago now. And I was devastated. I was living in my motorhome, and I was going, what am I going to do today? So I took my savings and I bought a house.
Okay.
Over and over.
Yeah.
I paid a couple $100,000 for it. Then I fixed it up. Since then, I have bought and flipped 5 houses in 2.5 years.
Okay.
And last year, I saw this one house up in behind Orenda, between El Sobrante and Orenda. Big house, 3,385 square feet, tri-level. I saw this house, and it was in bad shape. I waited, started inquiring, and that patience thing got me.
Yeah.
So, I'm there.
With patience, also persistence.
You're listening to Thoughts of a Common Man with Charles the Chief Williams on Radio Valencia, the sounds of the mission.
Hey, we're coming back here again, and we're talking about professional protection. looking where you want to go in life in time. And a lot of people in the professional community, they live with that idea, I want to move forward, and that's what keeps them going. And, you know,
Yes.
that's a motivating factor that a lot of people don't understand or don't have. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely. And the people that succeed are those that, again, competence is very important in your job, but then after that, some of those softer skills, softer competencies such as communication and strategic thinking play a role. And then those that I've known that are African American that have succeeded have seen the next step and said, that's my next step.
That next step is critical, am I right?
It is.
It's like a launching pad, am I right?
It is, because you not only do you have to think about the next step, but you
Yeah.
have to think about how is this next step going to impact the rest of my career? How's it going to look on my resume? How are people going to perceive this next step? Is it looking like a step forward, or does it look like a step back? And do you care? So you have to take all of that into consideration before moving on to the next opportunity.
Does that have something to do with projections in life also?
Absolutely. I mean, if you want to be a millionaire by the time you're 50, that's going to impact not just job, because I think you have to invest in order to do things like that, but that is going to impact what type of job do you have. If you want to build a career that helps you afford a lifestyle that most people can't, then you're going to have to go for jobs, you're going to have to go for education that has those jobs that make a lot of money. And then those next steps, you know, then it's, okay, I'm continuing. Like I have a friend that was a director at a IT company, and her goal was to be a VP. Well, she's achieved that goal, but she had to go to another company to do it. And so she had to keep in mind, this is what I want now, but this is what I want next. So how am I doing now? How's that going to impact that next step? And how much money do I want to make at that next step? If you don't want to make a lot of money, then you have a lot more options.
Okay, motivation. Getting motivation for people who are already educated. There's a lot of people in the inner city communities right now have a beautiful education. Stanford, Berkeley. I meet these people all the time, but they stop. What would you say is a good thing to get going again?
You know, that's a tough one.
I figured that.
Yeah, that's a tough one, because I have a child that's there, and we haven't figured out what's motivating, you know, what will motivate him yet. And
How old is he?
He's 17. And we
Wow.
need to get him across that finish line next June, and we haven't figured out how to do that yet. So
Can I say something to you?
please.
The biggest thing is, with a 17-year-old, is confusion.
Mhm.
They're confused. What's behind them?
Yeah.
What's in front of them? Who and what is on both sides of them?
Sure.
And that is the element right there. If you could coerce them to look at all these things and correlate life and have
Okay.
that one little thing. Because they're wondering, am I going to have to give up my life?
Right.
That's the big. And males, you have to look at that ego is the biggest damn thing that destroys everything.
Okay.
You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
That I got 4 boys.
Okay.
Okay, so
I need to talk to you a little bit more then.
I have one that my baby boy makes about $200,000 a year. He's 40 years old, and Pac Bell, AT&T fired them, him and his 3 friends, because they were doing side jobs. Well, they decided that, okay, we're your competition. We're going to be your competition.
Go.
You know, and I used to tell him, he used to just play games all the time. And I said to him, I said, one day just make sure that you can kick somebody's butt and move out of that little spot you're in. I told him, I said, get out of your comfortable spot. And this is what boys do. They get in that comfortable spot. And then there's girls.
Sure.
The normal one, they got to, that stops the whole life. And I told him, I said, don't go banging out there and having sex with somebody and you're going to get a baby. I said, you'll never have anything if you don't wait.
Right.
Here we go to patients. And most of them, they just say, oh man, I got to do this. I'm in love. I rented my oldest one at Berkeley. He fell in love with this girl from Pakistan. Oh God, I was so scared. But the minute he said to me, you know what, I can't let this hang me up. But getting them across that threshold of friendship, the future, what's on both sides,
Okay, I'll remember that.
is the key.
Back
you know
to
what?
those.
You know what it is? Is once he figured out that you love him.
Yeah.
You hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Regardless, no matter what.
Regardless.
Yeah. I would say that's a similar thought to someone in the interstate that already has a degree. Is, and what I hear you saying when we talked about it early on was fear.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps people from moving forward, is fear. They don't know what's next. They don't know what's going to happen if they do this. It truly is stepping out on faith. And so if they don't know what it is, if they can't see it, at least where they are is familiar. And they know this spot. It might not be the best spot, but at least I know it and I know how to navigate it. I don't know how to do the next thing.
I remember the first time I got underneath the rock car. I was so scared. I was terrified. And the guy said to me, he says, nobody can see you. He said, but I'm going to tell you one drawback. He said, take your belt and wrap it around the airline because it'll suck you out, put you on the tracks and grind you up. Yeah. And you're underneath at 80 miles an hour, you're floating almost. And the wind is there. And I said to myself, rather than get my butt kicked by the bulls, which are the train police, and something happened to me, and I used, whenever I found a rock car, I'd crawl underneath it and put my belt up and go. And you're saying fear. And in the black community and in inner cities, fear is the biggest and most prevalent thing that we all live with.
Yeah.
Is my car going to be there tomorrow?
Yeah.
Who's going to shoot me today?
Yeah.
There's a lot of fear.
That's another reason why some people don't have a vision. Because, especially for young black men, just as you said, am I going to live to see tomorrow? If I'm not going to live to see tomorrow, why should I
That's
dream
a big
about
one,
tomorrow?
you know that?
Yeah.
That's a huge one today.
Yeah.
When I got up this morning, the biggest thing, 3 people rang my phone, and they were talking about the guy who got his head cut off in Mississippi. They severed his head and had his body replaced. And this is an element of fear, and we're living in a time of fear and inconsistency in life, and just some crazy stuff out there. But you have to forge through that. You can't let that stop you.
Yeah.
Because you can't say it might happen to me. The hell with that. And they're finding nooses all over the place now.
Yeah.
and
Even
this-
here in California.
Here in California. Here in California.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you have to live through that. And just think, it's not the worst thing in the world to live through. Your fear is the worst thing. Your lack of self-confidence is worse than all that.
Yeah. Well, someone said once to me, if you look at the history of African Americans in this country, we've lived through a lot of things and we've survived. This is just another season in our history that is rough, but we've lived through rough seasons before.
And we can endure.
And we can endure and we can get through it.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
We can endure. You know what? I was in Manassas. God. You're talking about a horrible ass place back in 1958, 59, 60. I mean, it was horrible. And I blew in there and I was looking around and I'm going, oh my God, what in the hell am I now, Mississippi, and the guy says, oh man, he says, they'll hang you here, and I'm going, okay. So we went out and we raided a chicken coop, okay? Went back and cooked chicken for 2 days, and had a lot of, that third day, we was on the train and we was headed up into Louisiana. And I said to myself, well, what the hell? So we was looking out, and there was a guy body hanging there. You know, and fear. When people instill fear in you, just think of one thing: I'm going to get through it. I was scared in Vietnam. I got scared, and one day somebody said, "The hell with it! You're either going to live or you're going to die." You know, but you can't let it get the best of you. Is my whole point.
Right. Well, I can relate to it in having a baby. It's like,
oh Lord,
oof, Lord.
I'm glad that don't happen to me.
There were so many times I wanted to give up, and I said, just go in and get them. I don't care what you do. Just, I need this pain to stop. But I had to go through it. There was nothing anyone could do except I had to go through that labor and deliver the baby. And usually what you'll see is when you are pregnant with purpose and you're pregnant with vision and goals, that if you do persevere through the pain, through the fear, through the obstacles, there is going to be something on the other side that's worth it.
Nothing is free.
No.
You know, I ran into somebody the other day. I don't call myself an African American, by the way. I said I'm an American of African descent.
Okay.
You know, and that does not go over well in black men. They just said, well, do you think you're better than us? I said, oh, hell no, but I fought for that right to be an American.
Yes.
I fought for that right. I said, and 13 million people died for that right to be called an American. I said, I don't let anybody take anything away from me. Well, Chief, you're kind of a strange fellow. No. And when I read history, and I was talking to an old lady in Bunkie, Louisiana, she was telling me that thousands, hundreds of thousands, as I grew up doing research, over 13 million black people started this way, and the majority of them didn't make it. Only about 10 to 15% of them made it. So I figure like this: people gave their lives for that. I'm an American, and whenever I was any place in the world, hey American.
Yeah.
They didn't say Afro-American, no. They said hey American.
Yeah, we're American anyway.
And I don't give up that right to anybody at any point. You know, and a lady got so mad at me the other day and said, do you think you're white? I said, that's not the point. I said, my point is what I believe, you believe what you believe. But I am an American of African descent, yes. You know, and she looked at me, she said, well, something's wrong with you. But you know what? People said that all my life. You know, I don't really give a rat's behind.
Yeah.
You know, because you know what? Again, you get outside of this country, the whole realm of who you are changes. You know, they say you're an American.
You're an American, no matter what color you are.
Yeah.
You know, people like that. You were talking about compassion early on.
Right.
Someone says something to me like that, I just smile, say, that's your opinion.
Sure.
I might say, I'll pray for you, God bless you, you know, whatever. You know, but they're still going to get, usually, a smile out of me, you know, and just, it's not some, because that's a fight. And two black, like you said, the women fighting in the street, two black people fighting, two black women fighting, or two people fighting, period, does not bring the community together.
No.
You have your opinion, I have mine. We can agree to disagree.
I'm gonna throw a cliche at you, and I'm gonna tell you where it came from.
Okay.
J. Edgar Hoover. You remember him?
I know him.
Oh,
I know who he was.
You're not that old.
No.
Oh God! Here we go with this age thing again. He was doing a speech one time, and he came up with the cliche psychological aggressiveness. This is where black people and Mexicans, minorities in general, they have this trait. They're born with this trait. You know, and I was thinking about that one day about 7 or 8 years ago. I was down in Watts, watching people fight and people carry guns, you know, and I grew up down there. You know, I came from Louisiana, I was like 10, 11. And when I got here, it was like walking into a war zone. Everybody carried guns, everybody had knives, and everybody had this. This is the inner city. And I want to make you laugh. I blew into class with a pair of red Roy Rogers cowboy boots on, Levi's dragging the ground, and a red gingham shirt.
I know people looked at you.
What in the world? You know, and they're going, what's going on with you? But I grew up on country and western music. I still love country and western music. And people say, man, what is with you? But my point is, we're all different.
Yes. Yes,
You know,
we are.
we're all different. And
Yeah.
traveling the world changes your life and changes your ideas about a lot of things.
Changes your perspective. You get a lot of different perspectives the more you travel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't do that.
No.
Only, what they say, 13% of black people in this country have a passport.
Wow.
13%. That's not very many.
No.
You know, and if you would ever get out, one of the people that I see the consummate traveler, her name is Nikita Vaughn, and she's kind of a hefty thing, you know, but she gets out there and travels the world with her kids and see things and get a different perspective of life. Am I right?
Very nice. Yes.
And when a professional like you know, come up on somebody like that, it makes you feel good, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it
Especially a person of color.
unfortunately, fortunately, however you look at it, that person is still representing the community.
Right.
So if one person achieves it, we all achieve it. One person does it, again, other people can see the possibility of doing it.
Right.
And more people might do the same.
I would like to see. I was on a cruise. I've been on a lot of them damn things.
Yeah.
I got so tired of them. You know, I like the oasis of the seas, which is very opulent. You know, I don't like the cheapies. I hate to say, I shouldn't say it like that. Some people can't afford it anymore. But I started out with the cheap ones, and I elevated up and up and up and up until I got to the point where, you know, a Royal Caribbean, you know, is good. But anyway, not touting the Royal Caribbean, but they do have some beautiful ships.
They do.
Yeah, we was on this dining platform that was floating on this pole, and we started at the bottom, and by the time we got to the third deck up, you know, which was 25, 35 minutes later, dinner was over. So we had, then it was taking a number of people to start going, that kept going up and down like that.
Wow.
You know, and I thought that was so cool, engineering eyes, you know, so neat, you know. I said to myself, God, and I had to ask, I said, I'd like to see a hydraulic system.
Yeah.
He said to me, what do you know about that? So I said, I just would like to see a hydraulic system. You know, and I
And see,
went
here's,
down.
here's where my mind goes. I'm wondering about the wait staff and how they handle the up and down and up and down.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Everything, they order your food, everything is brought like wham, real quick.
Yeah.
You know, you pre-order, it's all brought, you're eating, and the thing starts to go down. 25 minutes, and it's at the lower deck. You know, and then they clean everything up in 25 minutes and 30 minutes, and the next group comes on, and wham, it's on its way back up again.
Yeah, but all that up and down would
Yeah.
make me dizzy.
It's slow,
It's slow.
very slow.
Yeah. But see, my mind goes to the people. Your mind went to the hydraulics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I thought that was neat.
Yeah.
Tell me something. Do you ever hold seminars and stuff like that?
You know, I used to.
Classes?
I used to. I don't right now because the focus really is on my individual one-on-one coaching. And at the same time, if enough people wanted a seminar, I would be more than happy to talk about putting one together for that specific group of
How
people.
about groups, large groups?
Yep. Large groups.
You would be advantageous to a large group. There's another lady I know that just about does the same thing. Her name is Beverly Kyer.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Beverly Kyer.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a lot, but it's a lot of, you know, it's not just the learning when you do a group, it's the networking and the relationship building. I've known people that have met at seminars that I've done, and I've met people at seminars, and I'm still connected to them to this day.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, that's an absolutely good thing. One thing I'll say is anytime you meet somebody, if you guys hit it off, don't lose touch with each other. Stay connected. Follow up with them. It doesn't have to be every day.
Right.
Every 3 months. Wish them a happy birthday. You know, not just Facebook. You know, call.
Pick up the phone. Network. Isn't that what life is all about today, though?
Yeah. I mean, we weren't made to be alone.
I almost said something.
We weren't. I mean, whether it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship, but we weren't made to be alone.
After 2 divorces, I said, oh gosh, what I need with any more trouble.
Right. No, it doesn't have to be that.
Yeah.
The relationships are very important, very key.
So, education, what would you tell people to start educating themselves to actually assume some of the things you've done, are doing, and projection you're going in? Like, what would be the basis of education?
For anybody, I mean.
Psychology?
Psychology, you have to pretty much have an advanced degree, a master's or a Ph.D. to do anything with that degree.
Right.
But general education, you could start like you did with a book. If you want to do it just for learning's sake, start with a book. There's I don't know if I hope this isn't a plug, but there's an online free education system called Coursera that you can take classes from a lot of different universities, such as University of Michigan, University of Florida. I mean, almost every university in the country, possibly UC Berkeley, and you can take different classes for free online.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You know how many people don't know that?
Yeah.
Millions.
Yeah. And you could start there. You don't have to pay a penny. You just go online, look it up, find the class you want. It's everything, and I'm being facetious, but it might be on there. Everything from basket weaving to astrophysics is on there, and everything in between.
You know, I'm going to tell you something. I used to read these books on psychology, just tons and tons and tons, because psychology and leadership goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
You know, and one of the things that I learned was the fact that if you inject yourself into something like that, somewhere in the world it's going to pay off.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the understanding of people is what it was. And I read Freud from cover to cover, and I'm going, God, for real?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
There was like five different, versions of his thoughts and his ways, and I read all of them,
Wow.
I'm sitting there going, okay, this does not make sense.
But you know, what I've learned in getting a PhD
Yeah.
is you take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, and combine it and figure out what do you believe, and then use these theories, use these ideas to support yours or to come up with your own. So you don't have to follow one person. You can pick and choose who that is in your readings, what makes sense for you, and then you could use that to, be in the world with other people.
In your professional life, who made the biggest impact on you in going forward?
Well, I had a first cousin who took on the role of like another mother for me, and she was my model as an entrepreneur owning her own business. She raised 2 boys as a single mother. Both of them she put through undergraduate and graduate school, and one has an MBA, one has a master's in architecture. Successful today with families of their own. Unfortunately, she died of breast cancer in 1999, but she has been my inspiration even after her death, because I saw that it was possible as a Black woman to achieve that type of status, have a home that she was able to afford, and she did it on her own. And then again, those mentors. Not all my mentors were Black, not all my mentors were female. I've had white male mentors that have been supportive.
You see, that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
You have to open your mind.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Oh yeah.
You just can't say. And a lot of people of color, they say, "I just want Black."
No,
All they want is Black. They don't look at that.
No.
It does not work.
It does. It limits you.
There
It
you
works,
go.
but to a certain degree.
There you go.
And then there's sponsors. A mentor is someone that can pour into you and help you navigate the culture and come up with ideas for how to be better in your role. A sponsor is someone who has watched you and knows your work and knows that you are a superstar and can introduce you to others in the organization that will give you opportunities to move into that organization. Those are two different things. So, and usually the sponsors are going to be white male because those are the people that have the power and the ability to make those decisions or to introduce you to those individuals.
Again, you have to open your mind.
Absolutely.
People have a hard time doing that today.
Yeah, growing up in Daly City, it was very diverse. So
Yeah.
I am thankful for my childhood and all my
You are
friends.
listening to Thoughts of a Common Man with Charles the Chief Williams on Radio Valencia, the sounds of the mission.
Hey, we're back again, and we're here with a very intelligent, gorgeous woman of impeccable character and ability that can walk on water almost. We're talking about life and projection.
Yeah.
We're talking about a lot of things. You want to tell people how they can get started helping other people in your field? Because, you know, the educational level is important, am I right?
Education is important. Experience is also important in my specific field. You usually you're not going to see someone fresh out of college coaching someone else because you have to gain that experience, that life experience, that work experience in order to help guide someone else in that process. So for this specific career, it's really for someone who is, they might have already, I did it pretty young. Most coaches
How
are,
young were you?
maybe my mid-30s.
Wow.
So maybe, yeah, for the past 10 years.
Being a life coach is what you actually are.
I can be, yeah.
Yeah, life. As
Yeah.
far as the whole spectrum of
Yeah.
life, not just the psychological part of it,
Right.
but the entire spectrum of life
Yeah.
itself. You know, from starting with business, you know, and what do you endeavor, you know, how you think, what you think, and where you want to go in life.
Yep.
You know, and so that takes a wide range of knowledge,
Yes.
and you got to be a people person.
You gotta be a people person. And you gotta just have, I say, a gift of encouragement. Some people, you sit down and talk to them and they are like, well, what did you go do that for anyway? Why are you going to do that? That doesn't make any sense.
See, this is what I was wondering, you know, when people come at you like that, what do you say to them?
I listen. And I'm respectful because that's their opinion. And then I do it anyway. So I don't necessarily have to say anything to them because it's my life, it's my world. If they feel that way, they feel that way. I had a friend, I bought my house when I was a single mom. I had one child at the time, and he was 2. And I had a girlfriend who didn't think, she flat out said, I don't think you should buy this house. And I'm like, well, why not? Because you have a young child, you should put the money elsewhere. Okay. And I bought the house anyway. Still in the house today. 5 kids later, or 4 more kids later.
How many kids you got total?
Total 5. I have a blended family, but total 5 kids.
Oh, okay. That's the same thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
They're mine.
They're yours.
They're mine.
You took them on, honey.
Every last
You know,
one of
and
them
you're
is mine.
responsible.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So, you know, and life happens outside of, you know, career. Getting pregnant.
That is a big thing.
Mhm.
Life happens outside of careers.
Yeah.
This is where most people fail at.
Yeah. Yeah.
They fail to regroup and go back into it and get started again.
I completely agree. And some people just get comfortable. I know, like you said, there are a lot of smart people in the inner city. I know quite a few people that have their degrees and have a bachelor's degree. Smart as a whip. Stop there in terms of their growth. They got comfortable in whatever job or role they were in, and then they had to, you know, and they had to pay bills and they had to make money, you know, to support their families.
But complacency is dangerous.
It can be, yes. Well, it is, yeah.
It's a
Because if
dangerous
you're not
element.
moving forward,
Right.
then what are you doing? You're either staying still or moving backward, which is closer to death to me. When you have a vision, there's a proverb says, without vision, the people perish. When you don't have a vision, when you don't have something to look forward to, like my dad, for instance, he was a longshoreman. He
Oh,
retired.
he worked his tail off.
He did.
Yeah.
And he made good money. But
They made good money.
He retired at 72, 73, once I finished my undergraduate degree. And once I got my degree, he retired, he stayed home. And 7 years later, he passed away. Because he had seen his goal and vision achieved, which was me graduating. But after that, he didn't have any other aspirations. And I do believe that affected his health.
Here we go again. We're getting into something different. A friend of mine was talking the other day. I just built a new 200-mile power race car, and they're going to deliver it in 2 weeks. He asked me why. Because that's what I want to do. And when you give up and stop, you're gone.
When people ask me why, I say, why not?
Interesting. You know, that conversation resonated with me when you said that, because my friend Roger lived out in East Oakland. He worked for Naval Supply for 35 years. And he spent every day sitting in a chair watching television with his wife. That's what she found him at one day. That is a good now. And I still work. And I'm gonna always work. And I'm just touting me. But I learned that from other people who are still here.
Yeah. One of my friend's fathers ran the Beta Breakers since I was a little girl. He's retired from the school, the San Francisco School District, still runs the Beta Breakers.
Yeah.
And I just believe there has to be something else.
But something mentally shuts down when you stop.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah. And that can happen at any age.
Physiologically, am I right about that?
I would think so, yeah. And with my experience of depression, that can happen at any age. So it's not like when you get older. If you get into a rut or into a position that you feel like you can't overcome it, that's when you start to, either mentally, emotionally, physically, you can start to deteriorate. Our minds really affect what goes on in our bodies.
Ran into somebody the other day, 37, 38 years old, severe depression, looked like hell, and that was the first thing they said. They just felt like not being here anymore.
Yeah.
So it affects a lot of people over
It does.
a wide range of age.
Oh, absolutely. And not just depression, any type of mental illness or challenge or just setback. It doesn't have to be a mental illness. You get denied a job that you really wanted. That can be discouraging for some people. You have to have that mental fortitude, whether it be, again, through that spirituality, through encouraging people that are surrounding you. Even when you feel like I want to give up, you got to have people around you saying you can do it.
Well, I turned 74 a couple of days ago. People just, but I go back to what my dad says, do it as long as you can do it, and do it as much as you can do it. And he used to say to me, you see that damn star up there? I said, yeah. He said, you jump up and try to get it one day. He said, you may not get it, but you get a piece of it and feel just as good. And this is what I try to instill in people. Don't give up. We don't have physiology in our repertoire anymore as far as, how we talk to people. We're so in tune to mechanics now, and we're so in tune to stuff like Facebook and games. And in my estimation, we're losing something.
Yes, I agree.
We're losing something. As a human race, we're losing something.
Well, that connection, that one-on-one connection, the ability to communicate and converse with one another.
Well, we converse with the TV.
Yeah.
That game thing. My friend next door, he spends 4 or 5 hours a day on the game. And I couldn't see that.
Yeah, no, I couldn't.
Yeah, that's dangerous as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
64, he's 63 years old. He's
Wow.
he's retired, he's with the game. No.
It's addicting.
Yes, it is. But it's mind limiting too.
Absolutely.
You know, physically wise, it destroys you a little bit more at a time.
I agree.
You know. So how do you counsel people when you see people like that?
Well, those individuals, so there's
Let's say somebody asks you, I'm this and I'm that. What would an answer be?
like they're depressed, something like that.
Not just depressed, stuck in a rut.
Stuck. I take them, now this is when I go backwards, but I take them back, you know, what have you wanted to be? What have you wanted to do? What's interesting to you? You know, what keeps your interest? You know, anything. If it's video games, I tell my son, since you're so into video games, why don't you design video games? Why don't you go work for EA or whomever to go, you know, if you're so into that. So paying attention to what your passion is,
Yeah.
what you really
That's
enjoy.
important. Your
Passion is
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah.
That's, you know, really where to start is, you know, your passion, your interests, what you used to love to do, trying to get back into that. Like I love to dance. So once Zumba came out, I was happy because it's exercise and it's dancing and it's fun. So any chance I get, which is not often, but any chance I get to dance, you know, my hip hop abs or anything like that, I'm doing it because it's fun for me.
I've been trying to learn to dance for 74 years. I haven't got it yet.
Yeah.
I'm getting there one of these damn days.
Yeah.
But
And you know, if it's not a career, it could be a hobby. You
yeah,
know, I don't dance as a career, but I do it for exercise and I do it when I can because I just love it. So, you know, decide what you enjoy, decide your passion, and in some way, some shape, some form, volunteer. Some way, do what you love.
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to ask you something. Where did you go to college at?
Undergraduate, I went to UC Davis.
UC Davis. Good school.
Very good school. Loved it.
Would you recommend it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I like UC Davis.
Yeah.
What made you go there?
Well, I was at Sac State first,
Uh,
and that was where I met my current husband.
mhm.
And I always just joke and say I went there long enough to meet him, and then I transferred to Davis. We didn't know we were getting married at the time, of course. But, you know, I was at Sac State, and I wasn't being challenged enough. I knew I could do more, and decided to apply to Davis.
You keep saying challenge. You said that word at least a half a dozen times. Is that the key to everything in life right there is challenge? Because it goes back to what I said, there are those of us who live the challenge life, and then there are those of us who live and let life challenge us.
I think it's a big part of it. You know, for me, I like the challenge. I like someone saying either it's impossible, you can't do it, or why are you doing it? For me, when I transferred to Davis, it was just something inside me saying I could do more. Not that there was anything wrong with Sac State. My husband graduated from Sac State. Sac State was a good school. But I knew I could be challenged more academically, and I wasn't being challenged at one school.
A challenge keeps you out of that rut. It's too easy to get comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of people, they don't really reach their full potential because of that. They just get too comfortable. Like, this is nice. I like it here. If I try to do this, it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to do something new, learn how to think
Right.
differently. And you know,
I might fall on my face. I might look a fool.
but like where I'm at right now, it's nice.
Yes. Yeah.
So challenge is good.
Yeah. I like those. Steve Austin has a show. I forget what it's called. Skull Mountain. Steve Austin used to be a wrestler. Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh yeah.
He has a show, and it's a physical not even fitness, but a physical challenge. And I like seeing the athletes push themselves. I mean, I would never do it. That stuff looks hard. But seeing the athletes push themselves beyond what they thought they can do and then achieving that is, for me, I think is awesome.
You know, there is no end to imagination. Have you ever heard that before?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
There is no end to imagination.
Yeah.
And when you say things like that, especially inner city kids, they look at you like, oh man, I don't want to hear that. But that is a good cliche, am I right?
Yes. And I
Yeah.
think, you know, for some kids, they need that support and that encouragement. They're not going to figure it out on their own. And they need to have, not even, I mean, a role model is great, but someone in their lives saying, you can do more. You can do this. Because otherwise, where's that going to come from? Sometimes it comes from within, and I think there are people that internally just have that, and then some people need someone to spark it for them.
Wow. I like that because you know what, one of the things that I see is it's like moving one foot forward every day, walking. As long as you're moving forward, you know, you're endeavoring in life and you're going forward. That is, you know, it's a small. We've had quite a segment here today. And what I want to say to everybody is just keep on stroking, keep on hoping, keep on getting out there. And you know what, don't let anybody sink your boat as far as, you know, as what I'm trying to say it nice. You know, keep them off your ass, you know, and do something in life and get out there and have a good time. You know, as long as you look forward, you're going to be doing something. You want to give your numbers again and how to get a hold of you and all your sites and everything?
Yes, so my website, again, Dr. Julianna Hynes. Website is www.juliannahynes.com. And my email, my direct email is julianna@juliannahynes.com. Those are the two best ways to get in touch with me.
Get a hold to the good doctor, you know. One of the things that we look at the fact is that women actually shape life in a lot of respects. Men are okay. They do. But women have that intuitiveness about life, you know, that actually say, I can do it. And women actually push their men. I don't know no woman today who don't push the hell out of her man. You know, and if she didn't, then let her go because she ain't worth having. But we've had Dr. Hynes here today, and we've had a good segment, you know, and we're looking at the fact that, you know, we'd like to see you again.
Awesome. I'd love to
Yeah.
be back.
You write any books or anything like that?
Yeah, I have a book called Living on Purpose.
Oh my God.
I didn't talk about that. It's on the website.
It's on the website.
Yes.
Living on Purpose. And purposely living to be somebody and to do something makes you feel good inside. Back out of here in a little bit, you know. But I want to say something to Carmen. She came by the other day. Carmen is a person that started real rough, you know, a little bit of, you know, bad life. But there are people out there who will help you in whatever you endeavor to do in life. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely.
You just got to get out there and find it.
Yes.
You know, that's the big thing. Am I right?
I think that it feels like the hardest part is finding it, but putting some energy to it, I think, is important.
Yeah. Especially if you're in your early to mid 40s and you got alcohol problems, drug problems, or whatever problem. It's just life problems.
Yes.
You know, it's better to talk to somebody.
And I'd recommend starting at the Workforce Development Board.
Whoa. You know what?
The Workforce Development
What the
Board.
heck is that?
They have those in probably almost every county. Probably every county.
Workforce Development Board.
Yes, and they provide services to residents of that county. They provide classes to learn how to do some basic office skills, and counselors. I think that would be a good start. And if they can't help you, then they could at least refer you to who can.
Workforce Development Board.
Yes, the Workforce Development Board. I know there's one in Contra Costa County over near JFK University. Not sure where Oakland's is or Alameda County's is, but probably in Oakland.
Wow. Workforce Development Board. That will get you going and get you started and actually give you an idea of what the hell you want to do in life, because you know what? When you need help, don't feel like you're the Lone Ranger. Everybody out there needs help sooner or later.
Absolutely.
Am I right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't do this alone. Nobody does it alone.
See, now that's what I like about you. You're real.
It's true.
Nobody does it alone.
Nobody does it alone.
It takes a village.
It does take a village.
It takes help.
It absolutely
You know,
does.
don't be afraid to ask.
Don't be Superwoman. Don't think you're Superman. Don't be afraid to ask. Please don't be afraid to ask.